Good afternoon. Hope you guys had a good weekend. Got any questions? I'm sure you do.
I think we may have asked you about this last week, but to kind of follow up, as you examine Mike's development as a quarterback, one of the things he said he's noticed is you challenging him by basically giving him almost like a dummy play call or a bad play call, trying to see if he'll audible out of it, trying to give him something to see if he'll recognize a bad situation. How have you seen him kind of grow in not just maybe recognizing that, but being comfortable knowing what to audible to, whether it's a full play or a route combination or a protection scheme, that sort of thing?
You're talking about in practice, I give him.
Yeah.
I'm not trying not to put him in bad situations in games, but I think it's just if I can give him the worst case scenarios as often as possible, and him have to process how he can get himself out of the bad looks, and the ones where we're vulnerable. I've done that just with every quarterback, and he's really done a nice job as a young quarterback of understanding, the practice field is where we work through those, and he's always got to be on his toes. And just that base call that happened on Tuesday and Wednesday, we might throw something, at him on Thursday, just to make sure he understands that, they get to control what the calls are that they want to make defensively, and they can do whatever they want to do. And we need to be ready for the unexpected at all times. But he's done a nice job of grabbing a hold of that. And then as far as your question with what he can go to, it's not the whole offense. It's a limited number of things. It does grow as he matures and grasps the simple concepts. And our defense, with all the variety of things that they do in fall camp, gives us a lot of opportunity to have to make those checks. And so I think our quarterbacks and our offense certainly are all in tune to being on alert that he may do that at any time.
Coach, in looking back at the last two games with Michigan State and Rutgers, have you been at all surprised that the defenses have not adjusted more to what Wap's doing? Because he seems like he's had a lot of opportunities to not only catch the ball in open space, but then do a lot with it from there.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we've seen two different types of defensive philosophies, and so they have to adjust within the game and mix things up. But I think our guys have done a really good job of adjusting to what we're seeing as well. Wap's plays that he had against Michigan State were different than what he had on Saturday. And, a lot of that goes into the plan that we have in place and the adjustments. We don't want to give the same looks because we know that's what they're practicing. A lot more man. Opportunities this last week. He won on a couple man routes against Michigan State, but really got isolated one-on-one. And as the game went along, you saw them adjusting to zone. So I wouldn't say that Rutgers didn't adjust any. I just think that our concepts, fit to where, we could adjust with simple things and get other guys the ball in some cases where he got the ball in the same call. But then, we have ways where we can know that WAP is the primary and where the read will start. And, he's come through. He's done the simple things first, like catch the football, and then just let his ability take over. And that's what I'm preaching with all of those receivers, not just WAP.
Yeah, I think you're tops in the league right now in fewest sacks allowed. What have been the main ingredients to making that happen?
Right. I think a lot of it last week, I know we talked about the communication. First of all, the recognition by the quarterback and the offensive line of what's happening. And then Mike and Peyton, in his weeks as well, communicating after the identification happens, and then, the execution and getting rid of the ball quickly. Because we've thrown it between 35 and 40, 45 times a game. And so, that's my number one priority when we sit and talk in the quarterback room is keeping yourself upright, making sure your protection is sound. And even the ones we had a little pressure the other day, we were in the right calls. Mike had gotten us in the right checks, and he's done a great job, and then the guys just executing. So I think a variety of quick game along with some max protection schemes where, he can take his shots down the field. I think that's all come together to where, typically I think year in and year out, the offense has been, right towards the top as far as the number of sacks, the number of negative plays given up each and every year.
Yeah, last week you talked about the balance in plays of run to pass. This week you kind of had balance in yardage. Just how big was that? And kind of going forward as the weather gets colder to get maybe the run game going a little bit?
Right, yeah. It was. I was just really excited with. We just did some really simple things well. I showed the guys a concept that we have and how the ball hit in 4 different places. And it's a little bit of an RPO, not necessarily down the field throw, but it was a run play that hit front side, back side, a throw, and a quarterback keep, all off on the same play. And I was just really proud of how the guys executed the different looks, because we got something different on every play. And the guys just did a really good job of understanding what we were seeing, executing that play, being physical, and the guys making the right reads. Mike with the keep, Mike with the throw, the receivers with the blocks, whatever it might be. And that happened in a lot of different concepts as well. But seeing the run game hit and have some explosive plays like we did was really exciting. I know that it was encouraging for our line, encouraging for our running backs. When we have that going, there's a lot that can happen, because we know our guys are going to get isolated even more one-on-one on the outside.
Coach, the offense did a lot of great things. Obviously, a 99-yard, 13-play drive, eating up so much time. But there was a period during the second quarter where there was a big lull where things just fell off.
Right.
What went into that? And it ended with an opportunity to score at the end of the half that didn't that in a bigger game could really matter.
Yep.
What went into that happening?
The 2 things that just over the course of the whole game, we met pretty much every goal that we have, and we have a lot of tracking goals and then primary goals, but all of the goals we met except for 2. And one was the number of turnovers, and we had 2 turnovers. Our goal is to have 1 or less. And if you have 12 games in a regular season, you had 12 turnovers, I think that'd be a pretty good year. And so 1 or less. And we had 2. And I'll talk about that here in a second. The other goal was 100% on short yardage. And we were 100% on 3rd and 1, but we missed the 4th down deep in their territory at the end of the half. And so there were a lot of positives, like you said. Every time we were backed up, we got the ball on our own 3, our own 2, and our own 1 throughout the course of the game. And the percentages are very low you're going to score. We did a great job of, first of all, getting a first down. I think we had a 94-yard drive that got stalled at the end of the half, and then we had a 99-yard drive or 98-yard drive that ended in a touchdown, and then the one that stalled out after we got 1 first down and got ourselves out of our end zone. But really what it came down to is the turnovers. We had 2 turnovers, and I think it was over the course of about 7 plays there in the second quarter. On 5 of them, we had an error of execution. It wasn't necessarily always it wasn't a missed assignment necessarily, just missing a block, falling off a block. 2 guys that aren't used to working together having to do that, and someone coming free. And the turnovers, we had a few of those errors. I still put it on our skill guys, Mike on the interception, and Samson on the fumble. Even though there were some execution errors, we can't make a bad play worse. And all of a sudden we're off the field. When we got some good things going, good field position, you'd love to kind of put the pedal down and extend the game or increase the advantage that we have. I think it was 21-0 at that point. And so we talked a lot about that. And that goes back to, Michigan State. When you get that one chance when you're up by, 3 in the 4th quarter, and you get a chance to go and extend that lead, you got to do it. And so that's continued to be the thing that we emphasize. And then, we came out in the 3rd quarter, and we've done an awesome job at the beginning of each half coming out ready to go. I pointed out to the guys that, there's 6 games that we've played, 2 halves per game. That's 12 opportunities. And we have scored a touchdown or a field goal on 8 of those 12 opportunities. And, on Saturday we scored on our first 2 possessions in the first half and our first 2 possessions in the second half. So I'm excited about the way we're coming to the locker room. We just got to sustain it. And there were some things with little injuries where different substitutions were in and not in sync. But as we got back to doing what we do, the guys continued to execute and ended up, working through it. And I think it's not a matter of if, but when, we'll get back on track, and that's the way our guys are thinking and the way they believe.
towards the end of the game, we saw David Ellis get about a handful of carries. I mean, is that something that was an experiment, or is that something you guys might continue to do throughout the season?
Yeah, he's just such an explosive player, and he's gotten super comfortable with having the ball in his hands in the return game, and I know how confident we are in those positions, and he's had some tailback opportunities before coming here. In high school, wasn't as much, but he looked pretty natural on Saturday carrying the ball. I was really impressed with his cutting ability in confined areas. He looks great out in space, we know that, but in confined areas and just reads, considering he takes very few handoffs. We've worked on it a few times over the last 2 to 3 weeks, and he got his opportunity. I thought he did a great job, and so continue to find ways to get him on the football field. We used him in an empty package. We subbed him for a tailback, and we used him in an empty package, and he did a nice job in his routes there. And then if we sub for a tailback, we also want them to know that he's more than comfortable to hand the football off to him and go get some yards that way too. So and it wasn't just outside runs; it was inside runs as well, and he did a really nice job. So. He's going to continue to be a more dynamic player, and he kind of naturally plays WAP's position, and we don't like taking him off the field that much, and so we got to find other ways to use him and put personnel out there that can scare a defensive coordinator at any time.
Kalen, can you talk a little bit about the offensive line and the adjustments they've had to make with the injuries you've had with Hunter going out, and how they performed, and are these guys, have they improved to the point where you feel comfortable with them?
Yeah, it was really impressive on Saturday. There's multiple routes you can go. You can sub someone in at a guard position and move the whole group around, or like what we did on Saturday, we brought Charlie in and just tried to change one position and let the rest of the guys do what they do. And he came in and did a great job. And all of a sudden we've become a little bit younger, not just at the old line, but across the board as an offense. But I was super proud of the way our guys just showed that resolve that it happened with Coy's situation, and now with Hunter. But hopefully we'll get Hunter back. But if not, I think our guys are gaining confidence that it's the next man up mentality, and we'll work around and we know what we're best at with certain groups of guys on the field. Maybe it limits you a little bit, but let those guys go play ball, and as long as we're executing, we got a lot of great threats across the board that I know people got to be nervous about. So we really didn't miss a beat having him out there. So I was impressed with how the offensive line just took on each other again to make up for what we just lost, much like we did with Coy. So I was excited about that, and I think that's what great teams do, that believe in each other, and that's what we did on Saturday. You bet. Thank you. You guys have a good week.